Hi guys, and welcome back to our East Coast based city here in City Skylines 2. As always, I'm your host and creator Legio, and if you like what you see on the screen, you should do the typical YouTube stuff down below, because my algorithm could really use all the help it can get. So in the last episode, which in my opinion was way too long, we built out this neighborhood right here, which I think is really good. Yeah, really like the way that turned out. And we're going to stay on brand and continue expanding this area out over into this empty grid here and create its sister neighborhood, mainly because I want to get that population up and I'm enjoying this style of build, so you guys are just kind of along for the ride. But before we dive into that, there's a few things I think we need to do. So let's go ahead and get out of this view. I think we need to go ahead and get a district drawn out for it real quick, and we're just going to keep things nice and simple here. Just follow that up there, use the highway as a natural barrier, just come down and complete it. And it says Victoria Meadows, but I think for right now, we're just gonna call this Sister, for the sister neighborhood. If you guys come up with a good name, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd greatly appreciate it because I'm not creative. And then what we need to do is we need to assign some districts for our services because we didn't do that in the last episode. So let's start with our medical clinic, and it's gonna service these two districts right here. Go to our police, service these two districts right here. Go to the fire, service these two districts right here. Okay, and then the school needs to service these two districts right here. And there's one other, there it is. Almost lost that school for a second. And then there. Okay, so those are all now focused services into these areas, because otherwise they were going to try to service out in this neighborhood, which was going to stretch them a little too thin. So then the next thing I have on my rocket docket of things to do, I thought this would be kind of fun. I can't believe I didn't do it sooner. Let me get where that glare off the water isn't killing us. All right, that's better. I thought we could name these rivers, and that just kind of helps to orientate us a little bit. So I'm going to go with naming this river first. And how I typically do this stuff when I do this stuff is I draw a simple little box, and then I'm going to just name it. I think I'm going to name this Jefferson River after, wow, I can't spell. I think I'm going to name it Jefferson River after the second president of the United States. If you guys have better name suggestions down below, please let me know. But I think that works for right now because we're going to make this one, no surprise, once I get to it, we're going to make this one the Washington River after the first president of the United States. And that just makes sense because, you know, back in the day, they were naming stuff after the presidents anyways. So there's that. That's basically all I had on the to-do list before we dive into the build. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this build. I'm placing everything down by hand, so that takes quite a long time. So we'll see how this episode develops. If it's too long like the last one, I'm going to break it into a couple different parts. Because I'm going to build how I want to build, and if you guys like it, that's super. If not, well, it's for me anyways. So hopefully you guys do enjoy the build, and hopefully you do stick around to the end. I'll see you then. To kick things off here, I start by placing down the Eastern European City Hall for the area. And I picked this asset mainly for its building design, especially that semicircular section on the side of the building. And I believe that structure is called an Lapse. I'm not quite sure. I could Google it, but I'm currently recording and that'd be too difficult to do. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but I'm pretty confident in that assessment. Anyways, this spot here felt perfect for a government building. It's centrally located and it sits right along this main arterial road that's going to service the area. And it's that kind of visibility that just makes sense for something civic to be here. Gives the whole area a sense of importance, like this is where decisions actually get to be made. Plus, the surrounding layout gives me a lot of flexibility to build out supporting features like plazas, pedestrian areas, and other key points of interest. And it really sets the tone for the rest of the district and this build going forward. Because next I dropped in some parking lots and I laid out a few pathways to help frame in the space. But where I spent most of my time was working with these surfaces and detailing the area. Getting the surfaces just right took me a long time, but it made a huge difference in the final appearance of this. It was definitely worth the effort. I use the pathways I laid down not just for pedestrian access, but also to help level out the terrain a little bit and act as a guide for the surface placement. With all that in place, I was able to shape out some plazas on either side of the building, and you can already see the citizens making good use of them. Later on in the episode, I'm going to circle back and build a much larger, more impressive plaza across the street, and that turns out to look fantastic. Overall, I'm really happy with the way this whole area came together. Alrighty guys, so in the next phase of this build, I'm jumping right back into adding even more medium to high density residential housing for the residents, really bumping up that population. Because the focus for now is to get a good sized population base before we move on to bigger and better things of this build, and having that large population allows me to build pretty much whatever I want going forward, because we will have the workers and the customers at the ready. And if it wasn't obvious already, this area is heavily inspired by Brooklyn and Queens from New York City. So yeah, I'm really leaning into that strong urban density vibe here. Now, I promise I will branch out and start showing love to other East Coast and New England based cities soon, such as Baltimore and Boston. I've already got plans and even the spots in mind for those influences on the map. We're just not quite there yet, but we will get there and rather soon, I promise. So no, this isn't going to end up being a full-blown New York City tribute, even if it kind of looks like it is one right now. We will be changing that up soon enough. And yeah, I'll fully admit, I know parts of the build so far have been a bit repetitive, and it's going to feel a little bit more repetitive for the rest of this episode. It's a lot of me placing row houses, some mixed commercial buildings, and giant apartment buildings. Watch, rinse, and repeat that for a while. And I get that's not the most thrilling thing to watch for everyone, but I'm intentionally knocking out these foundational things right now because, you know, it's a good time to knock it out. It's just get it out of the way. And the plan is to get the quote-unquote grunt work done so I can start diving into more specialized and detailed builds that I'm genuinely excited about. And speaking of which, I do have some big projects lined up soon, starting with the public transit network. I'm really excited to get that started. I've been sketching out ideas for that since the very first episode. Well, really before the first episode. I was on a train to Chicago and I had a picture of the map on my phone, and I sat there and doodled out a bunch of transit lines on my phone. So I am itching to finally bring that to life. Also on the horizon, a much larger cargo port is going to be installed. Been talking about that in past episodes. And you know, the current one is fine along the riverfront, but we need a larger one. And it is going to be massive. Probably a multi-episode build, and it's going to be awesome by the time I'm done with it. It's gonna have a lot to it. I'm pretty excited for that. And also just a quick channel update, because I enjoy doing these all the time, it seems. I decided to focus more on the detail work and building at my own pace instead of chasing a regular upload schedule. I'm sure you guys have noticed that. I'm being a lot more detailed in this episode. Probably a little too detailed in some spots, and it's costing me a lot of time, but whatever. I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. I wasn't enjoying it there for a little bit, but I enjoy what I'm doing now. So, and I've realized I just enjoy the game way more when I don't try to force episodes out on builds that I'm not happy with. Let's be honest, my algorithm's already cooked, so I might as well just have fun with the game at this point and just post videos to share and show you guys what I've done. It's also very therapeutic to talk to a computer screen somehow whenever I'm doing this. Yeah, I think the dream of becoming a millionaire on YouTube is probably dead. It's pretty tragic, I know, but I do still enjoy doing this, and I'll do my best to keep things moving forward at a regular and hopefully good pace to give you guys something to watch. And, hopefully it's chill and you guys enjoy watching it. Otherwise, I don't know why you click on the leak. And, before I forget, I wanted to ask, what do you guys usually do when you're watching City Skylines videos? Because personally, whenever I throw on a CS video, I'm typically doing like laundry or I'm eating my lunch or something like that. Minute activities that I can just tune out. And I was curious what you guys did. Is it the same for you? Am I just background noise right now? Am I helping you do chores? Or are you using me to ignore your wife or something like that? I'd really like to know, so please let me know down in the comments below. I am genuinely curious about that. So I did what I could here to keep things interesting in this part of the city. It is pretty repetitive, I fully admit that. I tried my best to blend apartment buildings with row houses in a way that feels natural, even if the asset catalog didn't exactly make that easy for me. Currently, we are kind of limited in terms of what we've got to work with right now, but it is still miles better than what we had at launch. And hey, limitations breed creativity, right? At least that's what I tell myself when I'm staring at the same 5 assets for the 100th time and just go with what I've been doing. It kind of sucks, but it's also kind of cool because honestly, it is a blessing in disguise. I don't get stuck in analysis paralysis like I did back in City Skylines 1, where I would spend 45 minutes to an hour deciding between two nearly identical buildings. Okay, that might be an exaggeration, but you know, the analysis paralysis did happen. And does that happen to anybody else where you just spiral into an abyss of decision making? No? Yes? Is it me? It's probably just me. Okay, cool. Anyways, let's move on. I end up mixing row houses from different region packs across these blocks though. I'm mostly stuck to the northeastern ones because they're the standard, but then the basic North American and a few European basic assets came in handy as well. The European assets add a bit of that older classic neighborhood charm I was wanting to have here. It really helps break up that cookie cutter feel that's been going on in the city. That can sometimes happen with City Skylines builds where you do something repetitive and it feels very blah. So those help change things up, and they also give kind of a Victorian feel, which is one of the themes I want in the city, so it works out. It's a win-win. And they do actually complement that northeastern style surprisingly well. Like, they don't clash, and that's also a win. I also end up having to do something about education. You probably will see me or have seen me stick in a few row house school buildings here and there to help out, because education, it was pretty bad, like really bad. So I do end up repurposing an entire block later on in the episode. I removed some of the housing and plopped down a much bigger school to get things back on track. And bonus points, it looks way better than the housing that was there, and it helped break up that visual monotony. Also, I want to apologize if you hear a whole bunch of random sounds. Currently, my wife is upstairs preparing to go on a trip for us. I should be preparing to get ready for that trip, but I'd rather record right now than put on clothes. Yeah, let that visual sink in for a minute, guys. So that's what the noise is. It's not my dog this time. She's actually at a dog sitter, so I can't blame her. Anyways, yeah, with all that said, we do detail a little bit in this neighborhood. I keep it pretty light. I do more detailing going forward, but I kept things light here because it's a time suck. What I focused on was just adding some alleyways and a touch of greenery to keep things from feeling too sterile. I also repurposed some of the surfaces out in front of the houses. I turned them from the basic concrete or pavement into stone or brick. It looks a lot better. It's probably one of those detail points you can't see until you zoom in, but I know it's there and it makes me happy. So for the alleyways, I do switch it up sometimes. I will use an actual alley road to connect to the actual road network, and other times I'll just slap down the surface and stain it and call it a day. It keeps things visually interesting, but it also helps manage the traffic, because if you have too many nodes in a small section, the cars just seem to lose their mind. And let's be honest, it's always the one intersection away from complete chaos in this game. And speaking of which, you might have noticed traffic occasionally turns into a complete nightmare, and then it magically just fixes itself. That's not me pausing the game and pulling a Thanos snap on the population of deleting all the cars. What is actually happening is I place down a bunch of housing, triggers a huge wave of new citizens moving in, and the traffic just freaks out. So what I do is I just let the simulation run. Well, I'll set the camera still, and then I let the simulation run, and then I jump right back into building. And it's been working itself out, because surprisingly, my road network handles it all pretty well. So yeah, shout out to me for accidentally building something functional for once. Alright, it's now time to circle back to that school I mentioned earlier in the episode because our education needs are dire. And I went with the German elementary school for this one, mostly because the architecture just looks awesome. I love the German region pack, the assets in it look great, and I do plan on using more from that pack as the build progresses. We're just not there yet. We had to make this very American before we could make it a melting pot. And I actually got inspiration for this part of the build while I was driving around the Tower Grove neighborhood in St. Louis. I passed by the Roosevelt High School and immediately thought, yep, this is the vibe I want in the city. And now technically the Roosevelt High School is more Tudor revival than full-blown Gothic. It's not an exact match, but we'll call it a stylistic match, if that works. Are you guys going to accept that? Doesn't matter, I'm doing it anyways. Just accept it now. And it's got character, the detail is just old enough for that old school grandeur to pass the vibe check. Plus, it's surrounded by rows of tightly packed housing, which really helped me picture how my layout could work in this game, and it all just clicked. In my headcanon, this is one of those fancy private or charter schools that was built over a century ago by some obscenely rich industrialist who thought kids deserved flying buttresses with their algebra. And then you fast forward to modern day, and the building's still standing, aged beautifully, oozing character, and somehow managing to fit right in, even though it absolutely shouldn't. But hey, this actually helps me stick to one of my broader goals of using all the regional content packs for the city, so check that box. And because, let's be real, East Coast cities in the US were shaped by wave after wave of immigration, and that influence shows in the architecture. It only makes sense that our city reflects that same mix. I'm picturing this place as a true melting pot, even though all the citizens pretty much look the same. And a city built by and packed with distinct neighborhoods representing different cultures and regions. That's the goal. That is the goal. I do have plans to build a Chinatown, a Little Britain, and a Little Dutchland. And if the French region pack ever decides it wants to stop bugging out, we'll even get a little slice of Paris in here too. That's a hope for one day. And I'm really looking forward to diving into those ethnic enclaves. Each one's going to get its own little dedicated episode because they deserve more than just a background filler in job. And I'll try to do a little bit of history with it because if you're familiar with the channel, I used to do that. I just got lazy. But I am looking forward to those episodes. They're always fun to build. But to wrap up the time lapse, I threw together a simple plaza right out front of City Hall. It's nothing too flashy, even though it took me a long time to do because of the surfaces. It's just some paths and that surface work to carve out a little space just to let my citizens breathe with some open air, because everything was feeling kind of stuffy to me. And I think that openness does add a nice bit of contrast to the dense city blocks I've been building, and it gives some visual relief when you zoom out. It's like a little focal anchor, in my opinion. And then I ended up turning it into a functional park, zoned it out as its own district, and then I called it a day. And with that, I will see you guys in the live play in just a few seconds. Alrighty guys, we are back live in game and we're just kind of chilling here at the City Hall Plaza. Really enjoying this view. This is a great view. This might end up being the thumbnail for the episode, which you would probably already know since you had to click on the thumbnail to watch the episode, but I digress. Let's go ahead and recap what we've done. Get zoomed out a little bit here and what is going on right here. Oh my goodness, my citizens can walk on water. That doesn't bode well for me. I have a bunch of messiahs in my city. Well, hopefully they don't band together and overthrow me, because that could end very poorly for me. Oh well, moving on. Anyways, let's zoom out here. So down here we have the City Hall. Really like how that turned out. That looks awesome. Grass is a little bright, but I played with different surfaces and textures, and that's the one that looks the best for right now. So it's going to stay. And then we have the bulk of the episode, I guess you could say, with all these apartments and row houses right here. I think that turned out pretty good. I detailed that as best I could. Talked about that during the live play. I think it looks good. I do. I like the way it turned out. And then the other part of the build that I really enjoyed was this German-inspired school right here. Sorry, I had a little bit of a glitch. Yeah, this turned out great. Like this. I do think it fits in seamlessly with the neighborhood and just looks awesome. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way that turned out. So anyways, that's more or less the episode. Not a lot to recap. It was just a bunch of find it and plop it. So anyways, for the next episode, I think we will finish things out over here. And hopefully you check that one out because it shouldn't be too long to come out. All right, guys, you have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.